My name is Jack Miller, a coder who burned himself out before 30. When I woke up this morning, I realized my reality had shifted. I had become the live-in trophy husband of a wealthy heiress. My goal was simple: quiet quitting on life, coasting, and living off my wife's fortune. But when my Ice Queen CEO wife handed me the divorce papers, I froze. Because, apparently, she can hear my thoughts. Divorce. Yes, absolutely divorce. $20 million in alimony? I won't have to lift a finger for the rest of my life. Her hand, holding the pen, suddenly stopped. It seemed this easy life wasn't going to go as planned. I woke up on a leather sofa large enough to sleep 5 people. Memories that weren't mine flooded my brain like a decompressed zip file, splitting my head open. The overworked programmer was gone, reborn as the useless son-in-law of the prestigious Vance family. A complete waste of space. Married for 3 years, and my only contribution was converting oxygen into carbon dioxide. Sign it. A cold female voice cut through the air, void of emotion. I looked up to see my wife, Victoria Vance. She was impeccable in a bespoke white suit, her hair pinned up to reveal a swan-like neck. Her face was flawless, but her expression was colder than a Chicago winter. She slid a document toward me. Divorce settlement agreement. My heart didn't break, it soared. Sign. I have to sign this immediately. Oh my God, $20 million. And a penthouse in Manhattan. What kind of heavenly breakup fee is this? With this cash, I can coast until I die. Who wants to be a trophy husband anyway? I fought the urge to grin like a maniac, forcing a mask of deep sorrow onto my face as I picked up the pen. Hurry, hurry, before she changes her mind. I've never seen this many zeros. Victoria Vance, you are as generous as you are beautiful. I was about to scribble my signature with a flourish when Victoria, who was holding her own fountain pen ready to sign, froze in midair. Her eyes, usually calm as a frozen lake, rippled with confusion as she stared at me. Huh? Why did she stop? Does she think she offered too much? Don't do this to me, lady. I'll take 10 million. Hell, I'm negotiable. I'll take 5. My inner voice was screaming. Victoria's brow furrowed ever so slightly. She heard again. The voice was clear in her mind. It was Jack's voice. She thought she was hallucinating from stress, but the sound was terrifyingly real. Victoria parted her lips to ask, but stopped. It was absurd. If she asked him if he was speaking in his head, he'd think she was insane. Why is she staring at me? Just sign the paper. Is she gonna miss me? Impossible. In 3 years, we haven't spoken 100 sentences to each other or even held hands. She's a workaholic robot. Her brain is just KPIs and spreadsheets. Oh, I get it. It must be that new smart grid project her company is launching. I saw the files yesterday. That thing is a money pit. The data modeling is fundamentally flawed. The maintenance costs alone will drag the company into bankruptcy. TSK. Poor woman. So beautiful, but not too bright. Victoria's knuckles turned white as she gripped her pen. The smart grid project was her baby. She had fought the board to invest $500 million into it. The data modeling? Fundamentally flawed. The thought exploded in her mind like a thunderclap. She stared intensely at Jack. He still looked like the submissive, harmless loser she knew, his eyes filled with a perfectly faked sadness. But the voice in her head sounded like a senior strategic analyst, cutting straight to the bone. We'll discuss the divorce later. Victoria abruptly snatched the papers back and stood up. Her voice was still cold, but there was a trace of urgency. Don't leave the house today. With that, she turned on her heels and walked out of the villa, leaving me stunned, my pen hovering over empty space. No divorce. My 20 million. My penthouse. My life of leisure. Victoria Vance. You can't do this to me. You promise breaker. I roared in silent despair. Victoria, already at the door, paused for a split second as if her back had stiffened, then walked away even faster. Vance Global Headquarters, top-floor conference room. The atmosphere was heavy, like the air before a tornado. Victoria sat at the head of the table, her face like ice. Regarding the smart grid project, I am announcing an immediate suspension. The room erupted. What? A man with sharp features that resembled Victoria's, but with a far more arrogant air, shot up from his chair. This was Caleb Vance, her cousin and the company's vice president, who had always viewed Victoria as a rival. Victoria, are you joking? We've been prepping this for 6 months. We're about to sign the contracts, and you want to suspend it. The project lead, Manager Lewis, also panicked, sweating profusely. Ms. Vance, our data models have been run countless times. They are foolproof. This is our core growth engine for the next decade. Victoria's gaze swept over the room and landed on Manager Lewis. Foolproof. She remembered Jack's inner voice. The data modeling is fundamentally flawed. She spoke calmly. Manager Lewis, let me ask you, did your model account for the actual load-bearing capacity of the city's aging infrastructure, combined with the probability of extreme weather events over the next 5 years? Lewis froze. Well, Ms. Vance, those are low-probability events. They shouldn't impact the overall model. Shouldn't impact? Victoria's voice dropped a few degrees. If they happen, the grid fails, the system crashes, and our investment evaporates instantly. You called it a minor impact. The conference room went dead silent. These questions were too specific, too technical. No one had considered them. Caleb's face turned an ugly shade of red. Victoria, where are you hearing this alarmist garbage? You just don't want the project I'm overseeing to succeed. Victoria ignored him and issued a direct order. Technical department, organize a third-party audit immediately. Stress test the model using the 2 variables I just mentioned. I want results in 3 days. Meeting adjourned. She didn't give anyone a chance to argue, standing up and leaving the room. She left behind a room full of stunned executives. Caleb slammed his fist on the table, muttering, "She's crazy. The woman has absolutely lost her mind." He couldn't understand why the decisive Victoria Vance would halt a $500 million project over 2 random variables. Meanwhile, driving back to the villa, Victoria's heart was racing. She had actually just gambled a massive project on Jack's random mental ramblings. She felt crazy herself, but that voice, it had been so certain. She needed to verify it. If Jack was right, then who exactly was this husband she had considered a waste of space for the last 3 years? I spent an extremely depressing afternoon. Watching $20 million slip through my fingers was a pain worse than coding for 10 hours only to have the computer crash before saving. In the evening, Victoria returned. I immediately slapped on my practiced, humble house husband expression and went to greet her. "Honey, you're back. Tired? So, when are you going to give me my 20 million? Victoria looked at me with complicated eyes. She kicked off her heels, slipped into house slippers, and walked straight to the dining room. I followed. The table was set with 4 dishes and a soup. My eyes lit up. Braised ribs, cola wings, sweet and sour pork. All my favorites. Whoa, did the sun rise in the west. Married 3 years, and this is the first time she's had the chef make what I like. Usually it's just rabbit food. Salad, salad, and more salad. Is she feeling guilty about not divorcing me? So she's compensating me with food? Fine. The 20 million is gone. I might as well eat a few ribs to recover from the trauma. I picked up my chopsticks and shamelessly grabbed the biggest rib. Victoria sat opposite me, not eating, just watching me quietly. "Is it good?" she asked suddenly. Delicious. I answered with a full mouth. Duh. How could not be good? This is the severance pay for my lost lazy life. The corner of Victoria's mouth seemed to twitch upward, but it vanished so fast it looked like an illusion. She picked up her chopsticks, but only took a small piece of greens from her own plate. TSK, TSK. Pathetic. Such a gorgeous woman eating like a rabbit every day. No wonder she has no meat on her bones. Hugging her must feel like hugging a bag of antlers. But cough, cough. Victoria, who had just taken a sip of water, choked violently. A flush of unnatural red spread across her usually pale cheeks. I was startled and quickly pulled out a tissue. "Honey, are you okay? How do you choke on water?" She's a grown woman, honestly. Victoria didn't take my tissue. She grabbed one herself, wiped her mouth, and glared at me viciously. The look was 30% shame, 70% anger. I was baffled. What did I do? I show concern and get glared at? Women. Unsolvable puzzles. Forget it. If I can't understand her, I won't try. Eating is more important. I buried my head and continued my battle with the ribs. Victoria watched me wolf down the food. The phrase, "hugging her must feel like hugging a bag of antlers," echoing in her mind. Her face burned again. This Jack, what kind of garbage is floating around in his brain? She took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. "Jack." "Yeah." I looked up, a chicken wing still in my mouth. "Tomorrow, accompany me to the estate." "Oh, okay." I nodded without thinking. The estate? All right, it's her mom's birthday. Great. Time to go back and get roasted by those relatives again. The Vance family face is lost because of you, a grown man living off his wife. I've heard it so many times my ears are calloused. Whatever. As long as there's food, let them talk. It's not like I'll lose a limb. I just hope the food at the old ladies' banquet is decent. Victoria, listening to my thoughts, tightened her grip on her chopsticks. Her eyes went cold. Not at me, but at the relatives she hadn't even seen yet. the ones I had already roasted in my head. The Vance estate in Greenwich was ablaze with lights and crowded with guests. I trailed behind Victoria like an unwanted accessory. As soon as we entered, Victoria's mother, Eleanor Vance, approached. When she saw me, her smile dimmed by 3 shades. "Victoria, you're back. And this is," she asked deliberately. "Mom, this is my husband, Jack." Victoria's tone was flat. "Oh, right. I forgot." Eleanor dramatically patted her forehead, then grabbed Victoria's hand, leaving me hanging. She said in a loud, snide voice, "Victoria, I don't mean to nag, but look at the girlfriend Caleb brought back. She's the heiress to the Sterling Corporation. And you? Why are you still dragging this dead weight around? The Vance family reputation is being ruined by him." I stood there, staring at my shoes, practicing Zen. Here we go. The classic opening lines. Same script every year. Can't they get some new material? Sterling Corporation heiress? Isn't Sterling Corp about to go belly up? Caleb is dating her for poverty alleviation? Hilarious. Victoria's body suddenly stiffened. Sterling Corporation. Going bankrupt? She looked toward her cousin Caleb, who was being treated like a star nearby, and the arrogant Miss Sterling beside him. Her gaze turned contemplative. At that moment, Caleb spotted us and walked over with his girlfriend on his arm. "Well, if it isn't my freeloading brother-in-law. Here to mooch free food and drink again." Caleb's tone was dripping with disdain. Miss Sterling looked me up and down, curling her lip in disgust. The surrounding relatives burst into laughter. I maintained an awkward but polite smile. Yes, I am here for the free food. You are absolutely right, Caleb. But that woman you're hugging, her dad is going to jump off a building this afternoon. You're laughing now? That's some serious optimism." Victoria's pupils contracted sharply. She was about to retort when her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her assistant. "Ms. Vance, breaking news. Sterling Corporation's capital chain has snapped. Chairman Sterling left a suicide note and is missing. Police suspect he jumped." Victoria looked at the message, then at the smug Caleb and the haughty Miss Sterling, and finally, her gaze landed on me. My face still held that harmless, dopey smile. But in her mind, my gloating internal commentary was ringing loud and clear. For the first time, she felt a chill. This man, how'd he know? "Caleb," Victoria spoke suddenly, her voice sharp as glass. "What is it, dear cousin? Watch your mouth." Victoria looked at him, articulating every word. "And watch your girlfriend. Make sure her father doesn't jump off a building without anyone knowing." Boom! Caleb and Miss Sterling's faces turned white as sheets. The surrounding relatives froze, confused by Victoria's sudden viciousness. Just then, Miss Sterling's phone began to ring frantically. She answered it with trembling hands, listened for 2 seconds, and dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a crack as she collapsed. My dad, he... The room went dead silent. Everyone's eyes converged on Victoria, filled with shock and confusion. But Victoria just grabbed my hand and turned around. "The food here isn't to my taste." She dropped that cold line and walked out. I was dragged along, completely confused. "Not to your taste? They haven't even served the entrees yet. My lobster, my king crab. What is wrong with this woman? Why leave a perfectly good banquet? And wait, did she just hold my hand?" I looked down at our joined hands. Her hand was cool and soft. My heart skipped a beat for no reason. The ride home was silent. I stole a glance at Victoria. Her profile flickered in and out of the shadows of the streetlights, as cold as ever. But I felt something had changed. That slap in the face back there was bizarre, but incredibly precise. Caleb looked like he swallowed a fly. Ha, that was satisfying. But how did Victoria know the Sterling family was in trouble? Is she a time traveler like me? No, she looked too shocked. Whatever. Too much thinking. As long as I get fed, let the sky fall. It has nothing to do with me. I leaned back in the seat comfortably, letting my mind wander. Back home, Victoria didn't go straight to her study as usual. Instead, she sat on the living room sofa and turned on the financial news. I had nothing to do, so I picked up a newspaper and pretended to read. In the creases of the paper was a land auction notice. A plot in the east side, designated as an industrial wasteland due to zoning issues, had a pitifully low starting price. I glanced at it, and memories from my previous life's news cycle popped into my head. That east side lot. Right now, even stray dogs don't want it. But who would guess that in a month, the city will announce the new future tech park and a subway line right there? That land is going to be a gold mine. The price will flip 20 times over. Man, if I had money, I'd buy it now, do nothing, and just wait to cash out. That is the true definition of lying flat. Too bad my 20 million flew away. I was filled with resentment over my lost alimony. Sitting opposite me, Victoria leaned forward slightly. She appeared to be watching TV, but her ears were pricked up. East Side? Tech Park? Subway line? 20 times. Her heart pounded. This was information far more crazy and shocking than the smart grid flaw. If it was true, this wasn't just profit. This was an opportunity to change the trajectory of Vance Global for the next decade. She looked at me. I was yawning, looking half asleep, the newspaper slipping from my hands. So sleepy. Full stomach, sleepy brain. Being a waste of space is bliss. Victoria's eyes grew incredibly complicated. She stood up, went to her study, and closed the door. I glanced at the closed door and shrugged. Back to work mode. Boring. Sleep time. I stretched and went to my room to sleep, content. Inside the study, Victoria didn't sleep all night. Spread out before her were all the documents regarding the East Side lot. Everyone said it was garbage. Every analysis report pointed to no value. Should she trust Jack's random thoughts again? Gamble the company's liquidity on an absurd possibility? Her mind flashed back to Jack's innocent face at the banquet, his internal gloating at Caleb, the way his eyes lit up at the ribs. Finally, it settled on his thought. Too bad my 20 million flew away. Victoria took a deep breath and picked up the phone. Attorney Zhang, prepare the paperwork. Tomorrow's auction for the East Side lot. Vance Global is buying it. The next day, Vance Global exploded with the news. Did you hear? The CEO has lost it. She used almost all the company's liquid capital to buy that wasteland in the East Side. For real? Isn't that industrial wasteland? What's she gonna do, grow radioactive mushrooms? It's over. Vance Global is finished. I knew letting a woman run the show was a mistake. In his office, Caleb was laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Ha ha ha. Victoria, you are digging your own grave. I can't wait to see how you plug a billion-dollar hole with a pile of dirt. He immediately rallied all the dissatisfied board members, preparing to launch an impeachment to kick her out of the company the moment the auction payment came due and the company stalled. The entire corporation was teetering, and the instigator of all this, me, Jack Miller, knew absolutely nothing about it. I was lying by the villa's pool, drinking an ice-cold cola, soaking up the sun. Victoria has been leaving early and coming home late these past 2 days. I don't know what she's doing. Perfect. No one to bother me. This is the life. The life of the rich. Simple, unadorned, and boring. He rolled over comfortably. When Victoria came home, she looked pale, but her eyes were unusually determined. I saw her and immediately sat up from the lounge chair. Honey, you worked hard. Hurry up, finish your business, and sign my divorce papers. Hearing my thoughts, Victoria paused. She felt a mix of annoyance and amusement. This man, his brain really contains nothing but lying flat and divorce. She ignored me and walked past. I watched her back and pouted. TCH, ignored again. Fine. She bought the land, so she must be stressed out of her mind right now. When she goes bankrupt, maybe she'll divorce me proactively. Is this a strategic victory for me? I gave myself a mental thumbs up. Victoria, who had reached the door, almost stumbled. She gripped the doorframe and glared back at me. She had bet the company's future on his random thoughts, bearing the weight of the world on her shoulders. And this man was at home, hoping she'd go bankrupt, just so he could go be lazy. Victoria felt a tightness in her chest. She swore, once this was over, she was going to educate this ungrateful man. Thoroughly. The next 2 weeks were pure bliss for me. Victoria was invisible, and the company was in chaos. Caleb had the board ready to strike. The whole business world was waiting for Victoria Vance to become a laughingstock. I slept until noon, ate, gamed, and swam. It's been 2 weeks. Why hasn't she gone bankrupt yet? So inefficient. I mumbled to myself while gaming. Then, one day, breaking news blasted across every channel, detonating the city. City Hall press conference. To drive high-tech development, the city has decided to establish the future tech park in the East Side. Construction of Subway Line 17 will begin immediately, with the terminal station located at the park center. On the screen, the mayor pointed to a spot on the map. That spot was exactly the wasteland I saw in the paper, the one Victoria bought. Boom! Vance Global went from hell to heaven instantly. It's up. It's up. The land value has flipped 20 times. Oh my God, 20 times. How much is 20 times a few billion? I can't even count that high. Ms. Vance is a god. She's better than Buffett. In the offices, employees who were cursing her yesterday were now worshiping her. In the VP office, Caleb watched the news, the blood draining from his face until he spat out a mouthful of coffee onto his monitor. No. Impossible. He trembled, collapsing into his chair. He had lost. Completely. And I, watching TV in the living room, froze with a chip halfway to my mouth. Holy shit, it really happened. I just thought about it randomly. How did it come true? Victoria. She, she actually bought it. I was dumbfounded. An absurd thought bubbled up from the bottom of my heart. Can she hear what I'm thinking? No, no, no. Impossible. That's sci-fi stuff. It has to be a coincidence, right? Definitely a coincidence. I tried desperately to convince myself. Just then, the villa door opened. Victoria was back. She stood in the entryway, looking at me with a faint, relieved smile. That smile was like the warmest winter sun, piercing straight into my chest. Jack, she said, her voice holding a gentleness she didn't even realize. We made money. I looked at her, mouth open, unable to speak. She smiled at me. Oh no, I think I might be catching feelings. The miraculous turnaround of the East Side lot pushed Victoria's status in the Vance family to an untouchable peak. The Vance estate hosted another family council. This time, Victoria sat at the head of the table. Caleb stood in the corner like a beaten dog, afraid to lift his head. The relatives who had mocked her were now piling on the flattery. Victoria is truly the genius of the family. Yes, that vision, that courage. We old folks can't compare. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, was grinning from ear to ear. Unlike her usual self, she grabbed my hand, acting so affectionate, it gave me goosebumps. Oh, my wonderful son-in-law. I knew you were a lucky charm. Victoria, having this success is all thanks to you. I stood there stiffly, laughing awkwardly. Lady, didn't you call me a waste of space a few days ago? That face-changing speed deserves an award. And stop grabbing my hand. Your foundation is rubbing off on my jacket. Eleanor's hand stiffened. Victoria's cool gaze swept over. Mom, just speak. Don't touch him. Eleanor awkwardly let go, but kept smiling. Jack, look, you and Victoria have been married 3 years. Isn't it time to consider adding an heir to the Vance family? I nearly choked on my own spit. Kids? Are you kidding? I haven't even held her hand properly. Besides, my life goal is to do nothing, not raise a kid. Parenting is harder than writing code. Cough. Victoria coughed violently, 2 blushes flying onto her cheeks. She glared at me, then told her mother, my personal life is not your concern. She stood up and announced the decision regarding Caleb, stripped of all titles, removed from the core group. No one dared to object. After the meeting, Victoria took me home. The whole way, I pondered the question. 1 coincidence, 2 coincidences. What about 3 or 4? The Sterling bankruptcy, she knew. The East Side land, she knew. Her attitude toward my mom changed. Everything happened after I complained about it in my head. Could she really read minds? No, I have to test this. I made up my mind. At the Vance Global Victory Gala, an uninvited guest broke the harmony. It was Julian Thorne, CEO of rival Apex Corp. Thorne was a famous, smiling tiger. He raised his glass and walked straight to Victoria. Congratulations, Victoria. A god-tier move. I admire it. You're too kind, Julian, Victoria responded coolly. Thorne pivoted. But you've been in the spotlight too much lately. Be careful. I heard several of your core technical staff are looking to jump ship to my company. The air around them froze. Poaching staff and announcing it to the boss's face? That was a naked provocation. Victoria's face darkened. I stood nearby, eating pastries, watching with interest. Well, if it isn't Julian the Skinner Thorne. This jerk showed up. Poaching? His own wall is about to collapse. I remember reading the news in my past life. Apex Corp's core tech patents were stolen from a foreign firm. They're about to get hit with a transnational lawsuit. Once that lands, the patents are void and the company implodes. Thorne is so arrogant for a guy standing on a landmine. I was roasting him enthusiastically. Victoria's icy glare, upon hearing my thoughts, instantly melted, turning into a look one gives a lovable idiot. She looked at Thorne, and instead of getting angry, she smiled a deep, meaningful smile. You're joking, Julian, she said. People seek higher ground. I never force anyone to stay. If my employees feel Apex Corp is a better destination, I only wish them well. Thorne paused. The insults he had prepared were jammed in his throat by her unconventional response. He expected rage or fake politeness. He didn't expect magnanimity. It made him uneasy. Good for you, Victoria. You have guts. Thorne laughed dryly and slinked away. I watched the scene confused. Why is Victoria acting so weird today? Someone slaps her face and she doesn't get mad? That's not like her. Did my lying flat spirit infect her? Victoria ignored the shocked looks around her. She walked up to me, took a bite of the tiramisu on my plate, and looked at me. Jack, huh? Tell me, should I give those employees who want to leave a long vacation? Let them go to Apex Corp and inspect the place. Her eyes were sparkling like a night sky full of stars. My heart sped up. She's discussing business with me. And wait, how did she know people were jumping ship? And that it was to Apex? My suspicion grew heavier. Things played out exactly as I remembered. Victoria actually gave the restless tech leads a long vacation. Overjoyed, thinking Victoria had capitulated, they ran to interview at Apex Corp. Julian Thorne thought he had one. But less than a week later, a lawyer's letter from overseas landed on Apex's desk. Core patent infringement. Massive damages. Apex Corp's stock plummeted. Banks pulled loans. Partners canceled contracts. Overnight, the empire crumbled. The tech leads who had interviewed they were terrified. They crawled back to Vance Global, begging for forgiveness. Victoria didn't take a single one back. She used a portion of the settlement money from Thorne to hire a top-tier team from abroad. This move stunned the industry. Victoria's reputation soared again, and my suspicion had reached its breaking point. I couldn't lie to myself anymore. There are no such things as this many coincidences. The only explanation was she, Victoria Vance, could actually hear my thoughts. The realization hit me like an ice bucket challenge. Oh God. Oh God. So for 3 years, every time I called her workaholic, made fun of her rabbit diet, and calculated how to split her assets. She heard it all. She knew about my $20 million dream. No wonder she wouldn't divorce me. She was playing me. She was watching me like a clown in a circus. The more I thought, the more humiliated I felt. No, I have to prove this. If she can really read minds, then I'll fight her. Screw the 20 million. A man has his dignity. I decided on a final test. That night, Victoria was in the study. I brought her a glass of milk. Honey, drink some milk. Rest early. I wore my most sincere smile. Here, drink the milk. Now let the show begin. Victoria took the glass, eyeing me with suspicion. Why is he so attentive today? Something's off. She thought it, but I couldn't hear her. I stood by the desk, staring at her intensely. Victoria shifted uncomfortably. Something else. Nothing. Just looking at you, I said lovingly. Internally, I initiated the plan. Test 1. Issue a simple, clear command. Victoria, if you can hear me, touch your right ear with your left hand. Stay out of here. Victoria, about to drink, heard the voice and her hand jerked, almost spilling the milk. Panic flashed across her face, but she composed herself. She didn't move. No reaction. Maybe the command was too complex. True. She's a busy CEO. She doesn't have time for Simon Says. Switch it up. Test 2. Trigger a subconscious reflex. Man, the font on that file is so small, it makes my eyes hurt just looking at it. I projected the thought. Almost instantly, Victoria rubbed her eyes and frowned. My heart pounded. Hit, but not enough. What if that was a coincidence? Test 3. The ultimate shame challenge. I took a deep breath and brewed a catastrophic idea. Victoria Vance. You are an ice queen, but you are undeniably beautiful. I just wonder, being so cold, do you know any kid songs? If you can hear me, sing Baby Shark. I'll believe you can read minds if you do. Come on, let's hear it. Baby Shark, do-do-do-do. I screamed the lyrics in my head. Victoria's face went from white to red, then purple, and finally settled on iron gray. The glass in her hand creaked as if it were about to shatter. She looked up, flames of rage dancing in her beautiful eyes, glaring at me as if she wanted to eat me alive. I got goosebumps. No. No way. Is she going to do it? Wait, looking at that face, she's going to kill me. I took a step back instinctively. The study fell into a deathly silence. We stared at each other, one terrified, one furious. Jack, Miller. Victoria squeezed my name through clenched teeth. She stood up abruptly, her aura so crushing I could barely breathe. I swallowed hard, sensing impending doom. It's over. I pushed too hard. She's going to silence the witness. Why did I have to ask for Baby Shark? Why couldn't I just ask, can you hear me? I am a genius. I wanted to cry. Victoria walked toward me, her heels clicking on the floor like a countdown timer. She stopped right in front of me. We were so close I could smell her perfume. Ew. She raised a hand, pointing at my nose, trembling with rage. What the hell is going on in that brain of yours all day long? I looked at her flustered, angry, yet somehow shy expression. The last shred of doubt vanished. She really could hear it. It was all true. I fell silent. Humiliation, anger, and a strange sense of grievance washed over me. For 3 years, I had been a clown, my mind an open book to her. Why aren't you talking? Aren't you usually very chatty in there? Calling me a workaholic, making fun of my eating, plotting for my money? Why are you mute now? I looked up in her eyes and smiled self-deprecatingly. Since you know everything, why ask? My voice was raspy. Yeah, I wanted to lie flat. I want to be a trophy husband. I want to take your money and run. In your eyes, I'm just a complete waste, a joke, right? Victoria looked at the loneliness in my eyes, and her chest tightened. The monstrous anger she felt suddenly dissipated. She remembered the last few months, how she relied on his random thoughts to solve crises and create miracles. She remembered how he shielded her from the relatives at the banquet, even while mentally roasting them. She remembered him calling Thorn the Skinner. He said he wanted to do nothing, but every one of his random thoughts had cleared the thorns from her path. No. Victoria's voice softened. Jack, you aren't a waste. She looked at me, dead serious. You are my hero. I froze. Hero. Is she so mad she's delusional? Hearing this, Victoria felt a mix of annoyance and laughter. She reached out, grabbed my collar, and yanked me down. Then, to my shock, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed me. Her lips were soft and cool. My brain went blank. She kissed me. This wasn't included in the $20 million package. Victoria's cheeks were flushed. She let go but kept her grip on my collar, staring into my eyes with unquestionable dominance. From now on, you're not allowed to think about the money, and you're not allowed to think about divorce, because you and that brain of yours belong to me. Story complete.